Hi, today we're going to take a look at the new 45mm f2.8 mirrorless full-frame lens from Sigma. So let's take a look. Here's the image.
Thanks, Ido. Today we'll be taking a look at one of Sigma's latest lenses, the 45mm f2.8 DG DN Contemporary. Our initial plan for this review was to test this new full-frame mirrorless lens on the Sony A7R Mark IV with its high-resolution sensor. However, there's been issues getting this camera locally, so we had to rely on our Sony A6500 APS-C camera for this test. We will be adding some links to a number of other reviews performed using full-frame bodies later on to give you some more perspective. With this review, we will be trying a new lens testing methodology that we are hoping to perfect in upcoming reviews, looking at different aspects of the design, build, and performance. Before we start, it's worth mentioning that the 45mm f2.8 is a completely new design from Sigma, which is unlike any previous Sigma lenses from recent years. It was developed specifically for Sony FE mount and the Panasonic Leica and Sigma L mount, and it includes several design features with a retro feel but a modern touch. Let's start by looking at the lens build and a more in-depth look at its new design. The lens has a rather simple optical design with 8 elements in 7 groups, including 2 aspherical elements and an aperture with 7 rounded blades. The lens is made of metal and it feels fantastic in the hand. Unlike other Sigma lenses, everything here seems to be made of metal, including the rings and the hood. The lens is extremely compact, at just under 5 cm or 2 inches without the hood, or 7 cm 3 inches with it. Despite its metal build, it's barely over 250 grams, 9 ounces with the hood, and it's as close to a pancake lens as Sigma currently has in its full-frame line. The lens has 2 rings, one for focusing and another one for controlling the aperture. The aperture ring is probably the biggest difference of this lens compared to other Sigma lenses. It moves in clicks of 1/3 of a stop increments, has a very nice feel and an automatic mode that lets the user control the lens from the camera. One note, you can't de-click the ring, so this might not be ideal for videographers. The focus ring is quite narrow and is way too close to the hood. Otherwise, it's smooth and has a nice resistance to it. The lens has a fly-by-wire mechanism, so no hard stops on this one. As we noted, both rings are made of metal and have a nice texture to them. The lens has an AF/MF switch, which doesn't exist on any of the APS-C mirrorless lenses from Sigma and is a very welcome addition. It's much easier and faster to change from autofocus to manual focus this way, and we hope to see this included on all of Sigma's lenses, including upcoming APS-C lenses from now on. Like other mirrorless lenses from Sigma, this lens has no image stabilization of any kind, so you are counting solely on your camera's image stabilization. According to Sigma, the lens has a splash-proof structure with a special sealing to make the lens more resistant to dust and rain. We used it in the summer, so we can't really comment on how well it performs in this respect. As we have mentioned, this lens currently comes in E-mount or in L-mount and covers a full-frame sensor. We only had a chance to use the E-mount variant for this review. The mount itself is made of metal. This is the first modern Sigma lens that we are aware of that has a metal hood. It's about 2 cm deep, just under 1 inch, and it has nice grooves both inside and outside. The lens has a 55mm filter, although the actual front element of this lens is significantly smaller. Moving over to performance. The focusing speed of this lens was very fast, and with our Sony A6500 we achieved positive focus lock very quickly on both AFS mode and AFC mode. On the video side, as you can see from our test, focus moved from target to target in a nice gradual way, without any jumps. We assume that with newer Sony cameras, performance will be the same or better. The focus accuracy also seemed to be spot on in all of our testing, and we hardly encountered any misfocuses that were not our fault. Sharpness is the most intricate aspect of this lens. This will be the first time that we will be using our brand new high-quality Imatest resolution chart, and we hope to improve our use of it in future reviews. As you can see, from a distance of about 2.5 meters, just over 8 feet, which was required for the 45mm lens to fill the frame with the chart, sharpness is quite good wide open at f2.8. This is true for both the center and the corners, although moving to f4 and above, we do see a slight improvement, especially in contrast, with performance peaking somewhere between f5.6 and f8. We do have to stress here again that these are results from our Sony A6500, which is an APS-C camera with a 24 megapixel resolution. However, based on what we've seen from other reviews who tested this lens on high-resolution full-frame cameras from the A7R series, it seems to be a good representation of how the lens will work on those cameras as well. We also looked at how this lens performs at closer distances, and here is where the picture gets a little bit more complicated. On the one hand, this lens has a good minimum close-up focus distance of only around 23 cm or 9 inches, with a pretty nice macro magnification rate of 1:4. However, as you can see from our test shots, at f2.8 the lens is just way too soft. Moving to f4, things improve significantly, peaking somewhere around f5.6. We also wanted to see how the lens performs at a more practical distance of about 1 meter or 3.3 feet. And again it seems to exhibit the same softness wide open, improving gradually from f4 to f5.6. Moving on to CA, testing the lens we did not encounter any chromatic aberrations. The lens did exhibit a pretty significant flaring when facing direct focused light. Mind you, our test is quite extreme, but performance was not as good on this front compared to a number of other lenses that we tested. Testing a full-frame lens vignette on an APS-C body doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we've done it anyway. Looking at other reviews, it seems to be fairly well controlled on full-frame cameras as well. We did not encounter any significant barrel or pincushion distortion with the lens. We do like the out-of-focus rendering of this lens. Too bad the close-up sharpness wide open is so poor. We took the lens with us to a recent trip to the Netherlands and had a lot of fun shooting with it on various locations. However, around the middle of the trip, our test lens stopped focusing, and we had to send it to the manufacturer for repair and get a replacement lens, which we used for the rest of our testing. As far as we know, this was an isolated problem with our copy of the lens. To sum things up, the Sigma 45mm f2.8 lens is both exciting and a little disappointing at the same time. The exciting part, for us at least, is the all-new external design, which is both aesthetically pleasing and a lot of fun to use, with its nice aperture ring and smooth focus ring, maybe aside from the fact that the focus ring is too close to the hood. We also love the fact that this lens is small and light and has a very fast and responsive autofocus mechanism, which is essentially silent in operation. The disappointing part has to do with the fact that this is only an f2.8 lens. Honestly, we can live with that, but the real issue is with how soft it is wide open, especially at relatively close distances, something that we are not really used to from other recent Sigma lenses. So, is this lens worth buying? At $530, this isn't a super cheap lens, especially given its relatively slow aperture and its sharpness performance wide open, and so it's hard to recommend it to most users. However, we do think that anybody doing day street photography where focus distances are typically 2 meters, 6 feet or above might really enjoy using it, just like we did on our recent trip. Just remember to close the aperture down a little if you get closer to your subject. We do have another 45mm lens review coming up soon, so be sure to stay tuned. Back to you, Ido.
So that was our look at the new 45mm f2.8 lens from Sigma. You can read the full review on LensVid.com, where you can also find all of our test results. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos just like this. See you next time.